All right. Hello, and welcome to the Daily Space for today, December 4th, 2019. I am your host, Annie Wilson, and Wednesdays are usually Rocket Roundup. Yeah, there we go. Wednesdays are usually for Rocket Roundup, and today is no different. While Americans were, preparing for and then recovering from Thanksgiving, the rest of the world was busy launching rockets. There's a lot today. Prepare, just mentally prepare yourself, buckle in, strap in, and so let's get at it, shall we? If I can do the thing. I am totally not prepared to do the thing. All right, please hold. I blame the dog. I totally blame the dog. It's a Monday. All right. I want to roll the rocket video for just a second, and then I am going to try this intro again. Thank you for your patience, because oh boy, I know it's Wednesday. If we have enough parachutes, the ride should go smoother. I need more parachutes. Scene with slides. Yep. All right. Roll the rockets, redo the introduction, and we can do this. We can do this, y'all. Hello, and welcome to the Daily Space for today, December 4th, 2019. I am your host, Annie Wilson. Most Mondays through Fridays, our team will be here bringing you a quick rundown of all that is new in space and astronomy. Usually Wednesdays are for Rocket Roundup, and today is no different. While Americans were getting ready for, and then recovering from Thanksgiving, the rest of the world was busy launching rockets. I also have updates on Starship Mark 1 and India's Vikram lander. It's going to be a long one, so strap in and let's get to it, shall we? I have the thing. All right, so first up is SpaceX. But it's probably not going to be what you think it's going to be. Before we get to the stuff that launched, I know y'all, and we can't get away with at least touching on something that didn't launch. The SpaceX Starship Mark 1 prototype. Way back on Wednesday, November 20th, the craft suffered a sudden and dramatic failure during testing of the ship's cryogenic containment systems. That's the tanks and lines intended to hold the liquid oxygen and methane, which will someday power the starships in flight. SpaceX later reported that they decided beforehand to go... It just cracks me up. Just hold on. SpaceX later reported that they decided beforehand to go ahead with pressurizing the system up to its maximum expected flight level pressures. So the result, quote, wasn't entirely unexpected, end quote. I'll just give you guys a second there. All right, so no one was hurt and no significant damage was done to the facilities due to safety protocols in place. According to the company's statement, they had already decided that Mark 1 would be used as a construction testbed only, despite earlier announcements to the contrary, including the very flashy Starship Mark 1 reveal by Elon Musk himself in October. Take from that what you will. The Mark 1 and the Mark 2 versions previously under construction have both proven not to be flight-worthy. Since the pressures involved in the Mark 1 test failure do represent part of the working flight regime of the spacecraft, SpaceX has some challenges to overcome going forward with the hopefully more robust Mark 3 version. Construction of that prototype continues at the same Texas location, which was home to the Mark 1, while the Mark 4 will eventually be built at the Florida site that houses the Mark 2. And yeah, there's video. You know there's video. And it will eventually play. There it goes. It popped its top. Just like that. Just like that. You can see why they had all the personnel clear the area as a precautionary measure for the test. Not only was there flying debris, but also the cold gas, likely nitrogen, but also possibly oxygen, or else some of both gases, quickly displaces the air around the site. And even though there's strong sunlight and wind, it doesn't dissipate for several minutes. Even if the oxygen is part of the mix, at those temperatures you're talking about freezing your lung tissue almost instantly. Just because it's oxygen doesn't mean it's always safe to breathe, y'all. And yes, the stainless steel used in its construction is the same steel being used for the Cybertruck that Tesla recently unveiled. This is a seriously tough metal, but it's not indestructible. There was a large amount of buckling caused by the rupture, especially around the top of the unit. Rockets are hard, y'all. See, it's still going. It is literally still going. So we actually have to pause it because there's like 9 more minutes of this. Literally 9 more minutes of that. Okay, so of the first actual things that launched, a China Long March 3 Bravo rocket launched the Beidou 3 Mike 21 and Mike 22 mission on Saturday, November 23rd, 2019 at 12:55 a.m. UTC. This will be the 50th and 51st Beidou satellites in orbit. They are part of a constellation of global navigation satellites for China and surrounding areas. Beidou is the Chinese name for the Big Dipper, which can be used to find the surprisingly faint North Star, also known as Polaris. Historically, Polaris was a common reference point for navigation. So if you'd like, think of the Big Dipper, Beidou, showing you the way. As, you know, GPS shows you the way. And yep, there's totally launch video. Warning, rocket launches are loud. Ta-da! And yeah, I know some of you are wondering, was there destruction? Yeah. So China does warn people about launches, and things of that notice. What I have up on the screen is actually a warning announcement that's released to the public that's issued by Chinese authorities. And this was prior to the launch we just watched. These are released before every Chinese rocket launch because rocket bits tend to fall down on land because China launches from inland for a variety of reasons. Anyways, according to this notice, and obtained by CNBC, officials told those in the possible impact areas to, quote, "At that time, please cut off your power at home 20 minutes prior and hide at a safe area. If you see any flying objects falling from the sky, please adjust your location quickly to avoid any harm. If you discover any debris, please don't get close or pick them up because they could be harmful to human bodies due to the chemicals." End quote. There you go. Turn off the gas, find a sturdy bunker to hide in, have a good pair of running shoes handy. And yet, things like this still happen. Unfortunately, bits of the first stage crashed into an inhabited area. Again, evacuation orders were issued prior to the launch with instructions, so people were out of harm's way. Homes, however, aren't quite as easy to move, and at least one home was damaged. Reportedly, people are compensated for their losses by the government. These pictures originally came from the Chinese microblogging site Weibo and were reposted by Launch Stuff on Twitter. And on the left, yeah, that's a motorcycle that had been left and was completely destroyed. And yeah, on the right, that's totally a house on fire. That was a house on fire. The gas lines may not have been cut off, or the fire could have ignited some other way. But this is why they tell people to turn off the electricity, turn off the gas, get out of the area. I don't know. No cows were hurt in this particular debris landing. All right, on to the next one. A Russian military Soyuz 2 rocket launched a super secret unknown payload on Monday, November 25th at 5:52 p.m. UTC. The exact purpose of the satellite is unclear, but the Russian Ministry of Defense, The Russian Ministry of Defense stated that the satellite's mission is to monitor other Russian satellites in space. There's also an optical instrument that's capable of taking images of Earth. That's it. That's literally all we know about this satellite. Not unusual, but that's literally all we know. But, yeah, we still have a launch video, because apparently, even if you're launching a highly classified, military-related space surveillance satellite, you're still going to have launch video. Let's just roll the tape. Yup. That still blows my mind that, yeah, we don't know what the satellite is, but here's launch video of it. But wait, there's still more rocket launches. A little more than 24 hours later, an Arianespace Ariane 5 rocket launched the Inmarsat 5 mission on Tuesday, November 26, 2019 at 9:23 p.m. UTC. There were 2 payloads on board. First one is Tiba 1, built by Thales Alenia Space in partnership with Airbus Defence and Space. This 5,600 kilogram, or for Americans, 2,800 2-liter soda bottles. GEOSat will provide communications exclusively for the Egyptian government. The satellite is reportedly part of a large deal with France made back in 2016 for military hardware, totaling over $1 billion, $1 billion US dollars. This is Egypt's first dedicated satellite, which in itself is a bit of a milestone. But its construction is also an interesting story, as the partners who built and tested the satellite are normally rivals in both spaceflight and the hardware industry. Airbus has itself said that Thales Alenia was the lead partner on the project, though Airbus provided both the satellite bus, that's what the satellite is built on, the structure the satellite is built on, and the primary testing facilities. Thales Alenia provided the mission payload, which is expected to last about 15 years. So that's the first payload. The second payload is the Inmarsat GX5, the whole namesake of the mission. Built again by Thales Alenia Space, this 4,000 kilogram, that's 2,000 2-liter soda bottles for Americans, commercial communication satellite is part of Inmarsat's Global Express mobile broadband constellation. From GEO orbit, it will provide additional Ka band coverage to Europe and the Middle East, particularly for airline and maritime users, and even for the US military. For those wondering why Ka band, while Ka band is more sensitive to the effects of weather than the Ku band, it provides a great deal more bandwidth than Ku per transponder. This satellite will provide greater capacity than the previous 4 GX satellites combined. That's right, one satellite is providing more capacity than the previous 4 satellites. This is just wild. In addition, the Ka band is largely underutilized primarily because of the issues with European weather. Meanwhile, the Ku spectrum is already highly saturated in the European market. Obviously, this creates a trade-off. How can you use bandwidth that you can't access? You can't. So, however, thanks to various other encoding and communications techniques often used in cellular service, mobile device applications of Ka signals aren't impacted much by weather. This is not usually the case in dedicated satellite services. Additionally, customers traveling by air are generally well above the effects of weather and water vapor, so that's not a concern for them in flight. And there's a bonus fact for this launch. This particular launch comes almost 40 years after the very first launch by the company, which would become known as Arianespace. And Ariane 1 was launched at 2:14 Kourou time on the afternoon of Christmas Eve all the way back in 1979. It placed a 1,875 kilogram, that's 938 2-liter soda bottles, satellite payload simulator. It's not a satellite, but a satellite payload simulator to nominal GTO, effectively ending what had been an American monopoly on commercial spaceflight to GEO. And yep, there's totally a launch video, and I have to scrub to the appropriate spot. I am sorry for the bits. This launch did get delayed a little bit because of weather, but it still took off. Give me... there. That should do it.
Now, and wish everybody the best of luck.
It's hard to get really precise with really long streams. So yeah, the launch was delayed a little bit due to weather, but eventually took off.
À tous de DDO, attention pour les décomptes finales. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, top. Allumage requin. Allumage EAP, décollage.
there she goes.
Tous les paramètres à bord sont normaux.
I'm just gonna pause it there because it does go on for quite some time. But everything was nominal with the flight. Everything looks great, and it went awesome. All right. I told you there were a lot of launches this past week. All right. So, an ISRO PSLV rocket launched the Cartosat 3 mission on Wednesday, November 27th, 2019 at 3:58 a.m. UTC. It was the 21st launch of the Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle in the XL configuration, which has 6 SRMs attached to its central 4-stage core. 4 of these SRMs ignite at launch, while the remaining 2 ignite some 25 seconds into flight. The SRMs burn for about 70 seconds, then jettison in order of ignition, with the first stage cutoff and separation following mere seconds later. You can think of this as India's version of the Korolev cross +2 +1. It sounds like it'd be pretty neat to see. So the payloads. There were 3 satellites deployed into sun-synchronous orbits during this launch. Cartosat, which is by far India's most advanced Earth-observing satellite. This was the first of a 3rd generation of Cartosats and the 9th satellite in the constellation. The first Cartosat had an imaging resolution of about 2.5 meters, but Cartosat 3 literally has 10 times the resolution of that original payload at 25 centimeters. And also features a much wider imaging track on the ground than previous versions. Second payload was Flock 4 Papa, and there were 12 of these. The dozen upgraded Super Dove nanosatellites are built by Planet, a San Francisco-based company which sells a 3-meter or about 10 feet resolution imagery of the Earth's surface to customers as diverse as U.S. farmers and government spy agencies. These newest Doves join a fleet of 120 other DoveSats plus 15 larger satellites called SkySats, which offer higher resolution imaging. Planet reports that all 12 are operating normally at this time. And Meshbed, the last payload on this launch, is a 3-unit CubeSat which was built by Analytical Space of Cambridge, Massachusetts, for the purpose of testing an experimental phased array antenna developed by MITRE. MITRE, in turn, is a not-for-profit company that works with U.S. government research centers and whose patented frequency-scaled, ultra-wide spectrum element, or FUSE, antenna could potentially provide faster turnaround for signals from space with benefits to tactical reconnaissance and communications. The U.S. satellites were all booked on this launch through New Space India Limited, the newly formed commercial arm of ISRO. And yep, there's a launch video. I didn't stream this one because I think it was at an on hour. Again, I have to...
स्टेप ऑन करते हैं ये उसकी 21वीं यानी 21st यूटी यानी जो आप बैकग्राउंड में देख रहे हैं टावर
about 35 seconds to launch.
Minus 35 seconds.
No matter how many launches we make, this is the 74th one. The excitement building up. We are all excited, and the mission performance till now is normal. The countdown is normal.
अब आपने स्क्रीन की आप नीचे देखिएगा करीब 2.8 सेकंड के बाद में 2 रॉकेट प्रज्वलित होंगे छोटे से. अब मैं आपको ध्यान से देखने के लिए
15 seconds. 10, 9, 8.
Remember these.
7.
We'll see these in a second.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
ये दे प्रज्वलित हुआ.
1, 0.
ये दोनों जो ग्राउंडेड स्टेप ऑन है उसका भी प्रज्वलित हुआ.
Lift off normal.
Lift off, a normal lift off, and PSLV is up in the sky.
बादलों को चीरता हुआ ये रॉकेट आगे बढ़ता जा रहा है.
Performance normal.
I don't think we'll be able to
Ground
see
lit
the
strap-ons are working.
release
Air
of
lit strap-ons
everything.
also ignited. All the 6 strap-ons are the core firing now. The PSLV at its maximum power.
Nope. All right.
अब जो फ्लाई
So because I don't think we'll be able to see the SRM separating, we'll just kind of leave it there. So, remember how I told you to keep track of, or to remember what the booster looked like? You'll see that in a second. But first, just a kind of tidbit about this launch. The launch path took a bit of a roundabout way of getting to its sun-synchronous orbit. As a refresher, sun-synchronous orbit has a slightly retrograde path, meaning it heads back to the west, while most launches head off to the east to make use of Earth's rotation. In addition to the fact that a pure SSO trajectory from the Satish Dhawan Space Center would parallel India's own coast for a long stretch, things are made more difficult by the fact that relationships between Sri Lanka and India are often somewhat tense. That being the case, extra effort is made by ISRO to avoid causing incidents in case something from one of their launches should happen to fall back to Earth, which is exactly what happened. Fishermen in Puducherry, Tamil Nadu, India, literally dragged rocket bits to shore. From News 7 Tamil. Puducherry fishermen dragged rocket spare parts to shore. That's it. That's the story. And that, does this look familiar? Because it totally should. This is an SRM. I am probably going to slaughter this guy's name, and I apologize in advance, but Madrasan Pinky from ABP News tweeted this picture stating a part of the PSLV was found in the sea today in Pondicherry, which was dragged from the sea to the shore by fishermen. More details awaited. Picture shows that it is the PSOM-XL, which is an improved version of the solid propellant strap-on motor of the PSLV rocket of ISRO. Yeah, these things are big. Just look at the humans on them. All right. Apparently, we're still not done yet. Oh, so many rocket launches. Okay. Moving on, a China Long March 4 Charlie rocket launched the Gaofen 12 mission on Wednesday, November 27th, 2019 at 11:52 p.m. UTC. Reminder, Americans haven't even gotten to Thanksgiving at this point, I think. Here's the launch patch. This mission's patch features the Long March 4 Charlie shooting away from a mountainous terrain. There's 9 bright stars standing out amongst a starry sky. I have no idea what this means. The number of stars does not represent the number of Long March 4 Charlie rockets. There's been 28 of those launches, and it does not represent the number of Gaofen satellites. 16 total. My apologies. I think I saved your ears. So yeah, if you could figure out what that launch patch means, good for you, because I just couldn't. Anyways, according to official sources, the Gaofen 12 has a sub-meter resolution and will be used for monitoring land use and crop growth, urban planning, disaster prevention and mitigation, such as early warning systems, and modernization of national defense. And this is a launch photo from that particular mission, and this came from Weibo and was retweeted by Launch Stuff on Twitter. And yeah, there's totally a launch video. Which is surprisingly silent. That orange and red you see at the bottom is the hypergolic propellant. It's essentially really nasty stuff. Are they just going to show a gazillion angles? It's really nasty stuff, but it's stable and doesn't need to be refrigerated. Or cooled, rather, excuse me. I don't know what all those bits are flying off. Apparently it doesn't matter if they fly off. But that's a lot of bits flying off. Okay, so that was all of the rocket launches for the past 2 weeks. All of them. And I'd like to end on a good note, but also kind of a bittersweet one. The Vikram lander was finally found by an Indian citizen scientist, which is super cool. So Indian engineer Sean, oh my goodness, I am probably going to slaughter this. I am so sorry. Subramanian, I'm just going to refer to him as Shan from here on out, has been credited by NASA with finding the Vikram lander. Back in October, he began posting side-by-side images to compare the lunar landscape before and after Vikram's landing attempt. He found these images by going through publicly available NASA data and analyzing them in his free time. It took him about 4 or 5 days to manually compare images before he found something that didn't quite line up right. You might be wondering why it took so long for this news to be released. Quite simply, the additional time was used to gather more data, verify Shan's findings, and allow stakeholders to comment before everything went public. The scientists and engineers at NASA and the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter Project wanted to be 1,000% sure that Shan had indeed found Vikram. And this on screen is actually the first set of images that Shan posted. On the left is a newer image, and there's a tiny white dot that is highlighted as the Vikram lander. And on the right is the older image, and he notes that no white dot is seen of that same spot. He posted a comparison of images again in mid-November. He did notify NASA, and I think he may have notified ISRO. He did, include them at the tweets, but I think there were emails involved too. So this image is a mosaic of the impact site and this was created by the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter team. The blue spots are areas of soil disturbance, and the green spots are marking the location of the debris. So it is a little bit bittersweet that this news came about, that Vikram crashed, didn't make it, and that it took I know a lot of people were annoyed that it just took so long to find out what happened, but I am incredibly happy that just a normal person that wasn't on the payroll of ISRO or NASA went and found Vikram and did all the work and got credit. And I think it was fitting that he is Indian too. So that's it. That's all I have for you today. And it's kind of a bummer note to end on. But it happens. So give me 1 second, and because I need to adjust all of this, because I'm already like, something's not right. There it is. Let me adjust all of this, get the dogs up on screen, and then I will answer your questions, because Tinker has been very insistent on getting some bits. And somebody followed, so yeah, we're gonna toss bits at the dogs. For those that are new, this is what happens. And make it rain! We got a follow, we got bits, and make it rain! And I already have to pour more Cheerios in. So, while I do this, while I pour Cheerios, and I encourage you to ask questions, I will scroll up through to see what questions you wrote while I was bringing you the news. Once I do the noisy part, Econ Greg says that he's out of bits. I'm sorry. Alright. Put the Cheerios up. Alright. Hanny's asked, do the dogs have an asteroid toy there? The red thing. It's not an asteroid toy. I can put dog food in it, and Tinker and Puck can nose it around, and food can come out of it. I could also put Cheerios in it. It was buried under stuff in my living room, and Tinker found it, and when she's hungry, she'll knock it around and let me know that she's hungry. So it does kind of look like an asteroid, but it's not. Anyways, and make it rain! Oh, hello, says Kaboom. So Susie resubscribed, so for Susie, make it rain! And for Broken Symmetry, make it rain! I'm gonna make it sprinkle off camera for Tinkerbell. Okay, so as a reminder while I do this, this has been a production at PSI, that's Planetary Science Institute, working in collaboration with Youngstown State University. I can't scroll back up anymore. Oh wow, I missed a lot of chat. A whole lot of chat. Working in collaboration with Youngstown State University here in very snowy Youngstown, Ohio. PSI is a 501c3 nonprofit corporation, which is fancy speak for your donations are tax deductible where laws allow. It also allows for you to donate through other certain channels, which I don't know a whole lot about. So with that, I'm going to go back to the questions, and I lost the first half because there was just that much chat. So Sammy was asking, where did the rocket land? And this was about the Chinese rocket debris. I don't know where exactly it landed in China. I'm sure somewhere in the note it was mentioned, you know, the area. It's just kind of, it's kind of tricky. So, but yeah, no cows were harmed. No cows were harmed. Hanny points out, if they put grid fins on the sections, maybe they could maneuver to uninhabited areas. So, the fuel China uses is UDMH, which is, wow, I actually have these handy. UDMH and nitrogen tetraoxide. So this is UDMH. It is literally stands for unsymmetrical dimethyl hydrazine. Hydrazine bit is these two nitrogens in the middle, and dimethyl, methyl just means carbon group. So here's one, here's the other, and there are two of them. So there you go, unsymmetrical, because there's none on this side and two on this side. Unsymmetrical dimethyl hydrazine and the nitrogen tetraoxide. Again, two nitrogens in the middle, four oxygens. This was my way of trying to show that Oxygen typically only has 2 bonds, and nitrogen typically only has 3. So the half pi bonds here are my way of trying to show that there's a charge that's shared amongst these 3. So this is pretty reactive, and this is pretty reactive. This is what actually causes the color, because nitrogen tetraoxide actually, and I don't have the other one present, but it actually changes from this, come on, stay on. My little model is falling apart. It actually separates from, or changes from the nitrogen tetraoxide to just nitrogen dioxide, depending on temperature, and that can also cause the color change. They're both really nasty and toxic stuff that you really don't want to mess with. Is that the night pole vaulting with the horse? I have no idea what you're talking about, Broken Symmetry. And yeah, they are a little bit on the slow side. So, yeah. But yeah, as far as grid fins, these are the fuels that China uses. These are incredibly stable in storage and can be throttled. So they're toxic, but the trade-off is they can be throttled and they can be stored. So I wouldn't be surprised if newer rockets maybe have grid fins. I mean, they did just do an experiment with that. But, you know, they're going to use up all the older parts first. That's my thinking. A whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, the Arian does move very faster in comparison. I don't know. Larry asks if liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen are hypergolic. I really don't know. Oh, we had a raid. Thanks for the raid. And make it rain. Thanks for the raid, Dr. WD40. Holy crap. Can I get a shout out? I know it's a little late. Oh, we already got a shout out. Y'all are amazing. More Cheerios because y'all are amazing. Make it rain. Yeah, rockets are great. A Klingon payload? Oh, is everybody asking? Let us go down to the sea again in Pondicherry. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. A strapping young launch vehicle. I mean, if you want to call it that and all. Hanny says, it's nice to see all these different countries going to space. Yes, yes it is. And I'm sure, as Larry points out, I'm sure Sri Lanka appreciates the no flyover. And yeah, India's launch did end up in the ocean. As far as I know, nobody got hurt. It's just the fact that they just towed it to shore. They just towed it to shore. Hanny's asked, what about the whales? I don't know. I don't know about the whales. There's a whole lot going on, and there's cost-benefit analysis of where the stuff falls, and yeah. Ernster says about the chunks falling off. Those are chunks of frozen air falling off. Okay then, because the upper stages are chilled. Okay, that makes sense. And yeah, the warning flyers. Hanny says finding something on the moon's surface must be like trying to search the ocean. Kind of, but we can see all of the moon's surface. Kind of. We can't really see what's on the bottom of the ocean. Oh my. Did I catch up? I don't know if I caught up yet. Alright, so I may have missed some earlier questions, especially about the Starship. It looks like I definitely missed Starship. So if you had questions about Starship that I just couldn't see, please repeat them. Oh, the night pole vaulting was in reference to the military coat of arms. Gotcha. Well, I figured using the military coat of arms was more appropriate than using Roscosmos. Apparently, the nitrogen tetraoxide, because yes, that's what the chemists call it, and I'm going to stick with what the chemists call it. Apparently, this stuff can corrode titanium. The more you know. Broken Symmetry asks, are the Starlink satellites low enough to interfere with Santa's Christmas deliveries? Look, Santa is full of magic and can make anything happen, so I'm sure he will be just fine and his reindeer will dodge all the satellites. All the satellites. Okay. Dr. Pamela's fish tank needs some used rocket boosters in it. I mean, maybe. And make it rain! I am glad you guys like the jacket. So, no, don't underestimate Rudolph. What is the ISP of Rudolph? I have no idea. I have no idea. The ISP of Rudolph? I can only assume that is ISP. Alright, so there was supposed to be a launch of a SpaceX rocket today, and that just didn't happen, and I am selfishly happy that it got delayed, and I am hoping it gets, the specific impulse of Rudolph. I have no idea. Look, y'all, I know it says, I know my jacket says rocket scientist on the back, but I know just enough about this stuff to be, like, dangerous. Even more dangerous. I feel like my knowledge of this stuff is more dangerous than my knowledge of astronomy. Yeah. I can tell you there's 4 toilets and 38 windows in space. And yes, the toilets did break over while we were on break, but I think they're both fixed now. I don't really know what happened. I poked at it, but there were just so many launches that it was just not possible to cover it. This is already gone. Look, it's already 2 o'clock. Refsmat asks, the toilets are better. The American toilet is better. I don't know about the Russian toilet. More windows, at least on the Earth side. I was surprised that there were 38 windows. I guess in all the crew quarters, you know, their little cubby hole, that's their, essentially, bedroom and private space. I guess each crew quarter actually has a window in it. And then there's a whole lot. There's just a lot of windows everywhere. Please keep in mind that I count 7? Is it 7 or 8 of those windows, dogs? I can't remember. Please keep in mind I count the cupola as a number of different windows because each pane faces a different direction and they all have their own individual covers. So, yeah. Rudolph's specific impulses, 24 hours, all Christmas night, all around the world. All Christmas night, all around the world would be 47 hours. That is actually a factoid that I appreciate and can use in the future on small children. These are useful factoids. So seriously, does anybody have any questions about anything I covered today? I feel like I missed a whole lot of questions. I would call the cupola for my bedroom. You can't actually call that for your crew quarters. Unfortunately, you cannot. They do spend a lot of time there. They do spend a lot of time in the cupola. Looking out the window is actually a favorite astronaut pastime, believe it or not. Okay, so I'm not sure what we're going to do next week. Yes, beeping thing, I know. There we go. I'm not sure what we're going to do next week, because next week Dr. Pamela, Susie, and I will all be in Florida. Where maybe if we're lucky, we'll see a rocket launch. It really needs to be delayed like 3 more days. 2 or 3 more days. With that in mind, Friday, Susie is going to host Daily Space, and I think Dr. Pamela has tomorrow. I know we have 2 shows that we're going to do, and those are essentially pre-written. They're both about AMS. It's super really cool thing. Those are for sure going to be released as podcast. And as far as whether or not actual Daily Space happens, that really depends on the Wi-Fi. So yeah, I really don't know what to tell y'all. Susie says, yikes. Uh-oh, what was the yikes for? We talked about you hosting on Friday. Don't, okay. Do I have any interesting plans for field trip? We are going to Kennedy Space Center, and I had requested that we go on the 13th because that's when all the vintage Christmas decorations will be up. We're talking about going to Disney, and we're talking about going to Universal because if you don't know, Dr. Pamela is totally a Harry Potter nerd. And where is it? And one of the cameras used in Harry Potter was an Argus C3. I think it was used in the second movie. This is not... I own 2 of these now. I own 2 of these now. This is not my grandfather's camera, but this is an Argus C3. Hold on, let's see if I can get it out of the case. This was made in the 1950s, so it's considered a post-war camera. Yes, it uses film. Come on out. You can do it. But I own 2 of these now. This is not the one I got from my grandfather. This one's actually in better working condition, maybe. So I would love to take this thing to Universal in front of the Harry Potter stuff and have pictures taken with this camera in the shot. I don't think I'm going to buy film. Because I don't think I'm going to buy film because I don't know if I can just walk into a store in this area and pick up film. And I don't think there's enough time to have it delivered. And I'm kind of terrified about taking film through the airport. So I don't think I'm going to take film because I don't know how to shoot on film with like a gazillion settings. This is way more settings than I've ever had on a film camera. And any film camera I've done has been like a point and shoot or had a whole bunch of like automatic-ish settings. DPI says film through the airport is no problem. Correct. But I'm also going to be flying around holiday season and I don't have TSA pre-check. But yeah, this is an Argus C3. It is called the Brick. It is very much a brick. I'm just glad this one didn't have film in it. And yeah, I have a screaming cat. I have, if I can get all the pieces out, excuse me. It's in here somewhere. I have a whole box of stuff now. So I do have the flash for it. And I actually have an original box. I actually have an original box. And I have the exposure meter, which it actually needs to be serviced. And I think I know how to put this together. You can actually, I have a smartphone and there are actually light meter apps on smartphones, and I've had a couple downloaded because I wanted to play with, manual settings on a, not that low. I wanted to play with manual settings on digital camera. So Just trying to see. I don't think this has been put together for forever. But I think the Harry Potter film had everything put together like this. So it might look more familiar with the flash on. And somebody installed a teeny tiny little bulb in here, but the correct bulbs to use with this are actually like a really weird blue thing. So yeah, one of my plans is to take this with me to get pictures with it in front of the Harry Potter stuff. That's my things. So yeah, it has a little bulb. I know we are way off topic for anything related to space, but this is cool, and I'm glad some of you are really cool, are really interested about it. But yeah, so this is CosmoQuest related. I know it actually. Let me see. I don't have a problem hitting the shutter. That's actually what the shutter sounds like. The shutter on my grandfather's doesn't work as well, and my grandfather's camera actually needs serviced. And although I'm not 1,000% sure of like the status of this, like I'm probably going to try to clean off the lens. The fact that the shutter works properly makes me happy. So yeah. DPI asks, are there any space toilets in KSC? Yes, there are indeed space toilets in KSC. Now we need a newspaper to spin into view. I know, right? There is indeed... Oh, I forgot to put the reflector away. There is indeed a space toilet at KSC. Yes, I plan to get pictures with it. At least I'm fairly certain there's a space toilet at KSC. There is an entire shuttle in KSC, Kennedy Space Center, that I do want to see. I don't know what all we're going to do, but we are probably going to spend a whole day there. There's a lot of tours you can do. There's a lot of extra stuff you can do. I think just about every day they do have an astronaut you can meet. Simply because I know a lot of people have traveled potentially further than what we did to meet an astronaut. I might actually pass on that because I've met astronauts before. And if me not being in line lets a little kid meet an astronaut faster, I am 1,000% for that. So yeah, everyday astronaut. Yeah, I mean, so do I have a special press pass? Yes, we have press passes. I don't know if they work for KSC in general. We are going to buy admission. Admission is, I think, around $50 a piece. Our instructor says, I estimate the F9 static fire will likely be the 7th or the 9th. I don't know if press passes will get us to the static fire, and I don't know what else has been planned, because I don't think we planned the static fire into everything else. So the press pass came with the camera. I know, right? So yeah, we do have to buy tickets for KSC. I think they're like around $50 a person. I'm rounding up, of course. That would be for JC Sat mission. I don't know. Anyway, any questions? Because my poor cat is screaming and I don't know if he's had his medication. And I'm sure he's starving. He sounds pretty bad, doesn't he? So, I'll wait for last minute questions because I have a feeling you don't have any. Today's script was written by myself and Dave Bullard. I keep forgetting to scooch that in earlier. And our producer is Susie Murph, who will do a whole bunch of editing magic and make this look amazing for YouTube. And I think the cat just jumped the gate. I still have to record record the podcast version for this. So once I get off of here and deal with the cat, that's what I'm going to do next, is record. He sounds really bad. It's kind of sad. And yeah, things and stuff and things. All right, so I'm not seeing anything. I am going to go ahead and roll the credits. Does anybody have any suggestions for who we should raid? Nope, nope, nope. Y'all are so quiet. What'd I do? Scare everybody off with the fancy camera? I feel like I scared everybody off with the camera. We have started fundraising, so that's what the fundraiser bar at the bottom is for. Okay, I really gotta go. I could raid Adam. All right, perfect. I will raid Adam. Thank you all so much for your patience. You all have been amazing. We literally could not do this without you. And I'm gonna go take care of my cat. So I will see you soon. I don't know. But yeah, thank you so much, everybody. Bye.